Hello and welcome to the Reflection Show with me, Martha Anabila. Have you ever been late to an event? Why did you go late? Or maybe you went early and the event had to start at a later time. How did you feel? How did you manage it? Have you heard of this Ganaman time and how do you think we got to this point? Is it because we grew up into a system where no one really respects time, so we just followed suit? I think you and I can do better. I'll be speaking with personnel from the Transformational Leadership Concept, TLC, to educate us on how we can go by time, especially on schedules, save time, and also make money out of that. As we say, time is money. Are you wrong? Am I wrong? What can we do better? Let's go for a break. When we are back, the discussion starts. Welcome back to the Reflection Show with me, Martha Anabila. I've been joined today with Nana Kwesi Jan Apengting. He is the former chairman for the National Media Commission and also a media and culture consultant. He's also the consultant for TLC. And Madame Georgina Asari Fiegbenu, she's an author, PR expert, and the convener for TLC. She's also Nanayere at Adidome in the Volta region. Thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Martha.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming. So, Ganaman time, we usually don't go to events early. Why do you think that we are having this problem?
That's an interesting question, isn't it? And actually, in the next few days, that's the topic we are going to discuss. So you've had an early start to ask the question,
Yeah.
why are we always late? Why is the Ghanaian always late? This is something that has been bothering our minds since we started the timekeeping session. I mean, just to put things in context, all of us know that GMT is Greenwich Mean Time. We are told that Ghana, I think somewhere in Tema, sits right in the middle of, is it the Greenwich Mean Time, isn't it? Or the globe.
Okay.
We are right in the middle of the globe. We are supposed to be, upbeat, very time conscious. But we've observed that in Ghana, like you rightly said, we have a Ghana man time. So when you have an event and you ask people to come at 10, they will come at 12 or 1. Actually, when you give them time, the time that you've advertised is the time that people will set up.
Okay.
Oh, I have a meeting at 10. What time are you leaving? I'll leave at 10. After all, people won't come early.
Yeah.
And of course, there are times that you attend events, you attend weddings, some church services, some national activities. I think that when we have their best, the bigger the events, the later we are.
That's true.
When it's just 2 or 3 people, I think that you can convince people to come on time. But where you have a large gathering of people, everybody will take their time and come when they like. The MC will come in when he likes, and when they come, there's no apology.
Yeah.
Whatever time the guest speaker comes, that is the advertised time. So if the time you are supposed to have maybe an anniversary and the Deba starts at 9 o'clock and your guest speaker or minister shows up at 11, that is when the event begins. So I think it's something that we've been used to. It's not just time we don't respect, we also don't respect deadlines. So if there's a deadline for a project, a construction, the launch of an activity, we can advertise and keep rescheduling. We can start building a road and say this road will take 2 years to build and to finish. I live close to Nsawam, so if you look at is it the overpass or the interchange there, even the start of the project, I think we heard about it 3 or 4 years before it started. Every time, we are coming to build it, we are coming to build it, then it starts. 2 years, people are clearing roads, and you ask yourself, isn't there a timeline to this project? So the issue of why we are always late with everything, punctuality, attendance, deadlines, project commissioning, and project completion, it's something that we are still exploring, and I'm sure we'll say a bit more as we go through the discussions.
Nana, why are we always late as Ghanaians? Why are we always late?
Well, I think the question is interesting, as Aunt Gina said at the beginning. And it's interesting because it's something that has come to define us, almost like I'm a Ghanaian, therefore I am late. And so when we don't step back to think about it, we actually don't think about it. In other words, it's become almost like the natural response of the Ghanaian to any kind of invitation or event holding, and we think that the advertised time is not when you're expected. And the interesting thing is this: it's not only in Ghana, but wherever Ghanaians gather as Ghanaians. I'll give you an example. When I lived in the UK, of course, there everybody's on time. Trains run on time. Trains can give the time 12:02. And at exactly 12:02, the train pulls into the station. So we all know that. But when it comes to Ghanaians organizing their event, then we do the Ghana attitude.
Yeah.
So for example, I was invited to a funeral, and over there, the funerals are in the night because people work a lot in the daytime. So they said 6 o'clock. I was there at 6. The bereaved organizing the funeral wasn't there. So I had a condolence card, and I wrote a check, added, and slid it under the door. So when they came around 8, they called me at home. Oh, where are you? I said, I've been there. You can see. Oh, but you, Ghana, you're a Ghanaian. You know when we say 6, we don't mean 6.
Wow.
Yes, and this was in London. And the hall was Streatham Hall. And if you like, I'll mention the name of the person. So it's become, but why? There are several reasons. One of them is that the concept of time itself is a sociocultural phenomenon. And so people look at time differently. Before, for example, when I was young, few people in Ghana had watches.
Okay.
You'll be surprised to hear this. And so time was calculated in big chunks, like morning, afternoon, evening. And in between, you might have some variation after eating, before this, before that, you know. And so the idea of precision timing is relatively new.
Okay.
Secondly, as some people have explained, it looks like in African terms, time runs cyclically instead of linearly. And so when you say time, we have many, many proverbs and things to show you that it will always come back. And so time is never wasted in our view. And so somebody can, on their way to, say, an event, can meet a friend and spend time bonding, talking, and it's time well spent.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you cannot have different standards, for different people in the same universe.
Yeah.
In our world today, time has been standardized.
Okay.
And so whatever our philosophical concept of time, it has now become a liability. If you want to apply that, when you are dealing with multiple audiences who are all adhering to the 24-hour time cycle. Another thing is that we have within our social psychology a certain concept of bigness. The bigger you are, ironically, the less disciplined you are. In fact, it's not even just with time. When somebody thinks they, a chief, a top politician, this or that, when they are driving on the road, don't even keep to their side of the road.
Yeah.
They think they can put on their lights,
The
flash
horn and,
the horn,
everybody should pay
and
way
everybody
for
should.
them.
So it's an attitude that we bring to privilege. That when you put somebody in a position, when they must see that there must be an example of service, of discipline, of rectitude, they rather think that once I'm elevated to a certain position, then I must take advantage of it. And one of them is time. And so instead of them coming on time, everyone else is expected to be seated. And then they will walk, gorgeously and sit as the last person to arrive. And so that has, for security reasons, one can understand that, for example, if the president is coming to an event, after the president comes, the security people want to make sure that no one else is coming so that they'll have to be distracted. But we've now carried that to extremes, where therefore the president is made to wait for hours. And I know that sometimes it's not them wanting to wait. I can tell you
But
that
the
there's a story of a president of Ghana. I won't mention that president's name, but that president was, in the early days of his presidency, was going to an event in the central region at Cape Coast. I understand that he got to Mankasim and he was on time. But just before he got, the message came that, you are coming too early.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you must, because the chiefs will be late, that. You remember there was an Upper West regional minister who started an event before the people arrived. He got there on time and he started and embarrassed everybody because they think that, well, he's going to be late. And so big men and big women will come rather late. So it's a very complicated subject. We have to, unravel it. We have to sort of really peel off, there are so many layers and to try and understand it. But this is a good beginning. We ought to talk about it.
So why is the transformational leadership concept, TLC, why are you so keen? Because I've attended some of your sessions before, and personally I've learned a lot from there, and I think I've practiced it as well. That has really helped. And I think that you get the value out of really going out of time. And I think after that I was called for an event, and I got there quite early than at first. I would have said that, they won't start early. And I think it added some kind of plus to me, going early on time to meet people. So why is it like a main project for TLC? There could be other things you want to do, but why is it a main project for you?
It's a main project for us because it's something that is very worrying, that we need to improve. And like Nana Appington said, it's something that we need to keep exploring. And we have to get better. Ghana is a developing nation, and we are always aspiring to be a developed nation. We are always talking about national development and growth and all that. So in the first place, if our attitude towards time is poor, in terms of timing for development, we are even out of place because others are ahead of us. And so the more reason why we have to be better with time in terms of planning, scheduling, and project implementation, and even attitudinal change. So we are concerned about it because time impacts national development. And so like I said, if you read the World Bank reports, even if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, the goals and the objectives that have been set for all nations, is time bound. And so if your attitude towards time is poor, it means you are not going anywhere. And we as a nation need to begin to reflect how we can use time as a national resource. We at TLC believe that time is a resource that should be managed just as we will manage our gold, our cocoa, our copper, and everything we have. Because if we don't manage time well, definitely we'll not be able to manage all these resources well, because in terms of even how to, market and promote and package and all that, we'll be very laid back because there's no time schedule to anything. So time impacts national development, and it also definitely impacts personal development. It's the individuals who make up a nation. And if all of us are going to be late for everything, definitely it means the country will be late in everything, including our development. So it's one of the reasons why we are very passionate about time.
Why is it? I think.
Well, I just wanted to add something. Maybe to recall that we actually started thinking about this a few years ago, when the late P.V. Obey was alive, and they started some transformation series, and I think the first one took place at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center and all that.
Okay.
And so we actually spoke with him, and he thought this could also be done with the National Development Planning Commission and all that. So we had really big ideas that this could be a national crusade. Of course, after PV passed away, the momentum died down. But I must pay tribute to Nana Ire and Mama Gina for really keeping it alive and keeping the issue on the front burner and calling us all the time. It took quite a few years of, being late to it before we actually reconvened. And so that is how concerned we were, that we thought, and that is where we are going. We think that, okay, let us start small in our own way, but ultimately we want the nation to embrace this. Because when you analyze it, as she said, we are already late. We are a developing nation.
Yeah.
So we have a target to become developed.
We should even be doing better. We should even try to manage time better than the developed countries.
Because conceptually, development is a process. And process involves, among other things, time. Without time, there's no process. Because process is also making progress from one point to another. So it's time involved. And when one of the main elements of your development, time, is so badly managed, how are you going to achieve your goals? How are you going to achieve your goals? We've got Africa 63, Africa Days, we want to reach a certain point of development by the year 2025 and all the rest of them. But that is time. And in marching towards that time, we are wasting a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because there are benchmarks in timekeeping. So you want to do a certain, reach somewhere by the end of the day. You are not reaching it. Because you see, the other side of it is that there are structural difficulties, like traffic,
Okay.
for example. You understand?
Yeah. That
So
you can't prevent, or you can't.
we
go
can,
over.
we can.
Really?
As a nation,
Okay.
when we've got this
As
going,
an individual,
Yeah.
you may not.
as an
a
individual,
nation,
you have to
Yeah.
manage. Because if you know you're going somewhere and the traffic is going to take 2 hours, then you have to add that to your calculation
To leave early.
to leave early. So even at the personal level, we'll come to that point. But I'm saying that as a nation, we have to think that the traffic that causes, I know a student at GIJ, Ghana Institute of Journalism, who told me that she lives at Bujumbura and commutes daily, and that it takes 4 hours either way.
Wow.
So 8 hours a day to go and learn.
Wow.
So how much time has she actually got to concentrate on the learning while she's in school and to do homework and all that? So it's zilch, nil. And there are people like that all over. We all go through this mess. And so when as a country we are planning things, we are planning roads, we are planning intersections, we are planning, we have to have this in mind, that it is meant to make progress. But if it is built in a way that retards that progress, then we are not going anywhere. So all these things come into the question of timekeeping.
Yeah.
And we have to, highlight them in what we are trying to achieve.
So now I want us to go straight to how can we manage time? Let's start from young people. So how can young people manage time to study or to do other things? How can we manage time to be able to, let me say, reach us directly, to be able to be enough for us?
Okay, so let me just start off by, going back to what Nana is saying, that we really must manage time. And like you said, it all goes back into the planning. And before you plan, the thinking has to come before you even plan.
Okay.
That's why the psychological makeup of every person is very important, because in your mind, you must have the will to be on time. So if as an individual, as a young person, you want to be able to achieve anything. So for example, you're a young person in school. I mean, just the point, to add to the point of traffic.
Okay.
Like I said, we live outside Accra, and in Accra now, a lot of people live outside Accra. You have those of us who live after Pokwase, Media, in stores in Sawem, the other half Adenta, others beyond Tema and all that. You know, a lot of people live outside Accra, and we end up having to wake our kids up around 4 a.m.
It's horrible.
only for them to leave, to school around 5:30, because if you leave the house at 6 o'clock, you will end up getting to school around 9.
Ooh.
Yes. So
Somali, you leave the house at 7:30, still get to the
before 8.
yeah.
But in Accra, until the recent interchange at Pokwase, and even then, we still have some bit of traffic. But before then, it will take you like 2 to 3 hours to get to town. And when you are coming back, you go through the same. So like Nana said, it takes you about 4 to 5 hours wasted. You know, precious time that is wasted just sitting in traffic. So you end up doing part of your day job in traffic. You start working traffic, you start eating, doing your makeup and everything. You know, it's so funny when you are in traffic on a road in the morning, you see the women sitting in the car, people doing their makeup and feeding their children. And there are times that I remember when we are going home, we buy dinner and we sit in the car with the kids and eat, because it will take you like 2-3 hours to get
So
home.
now have to cook.
Yes.
Wow.
So in terms of planning, if you want to be able to achieve anything, it means your mind must be made up that you want to be on time. And that means planning to set off on
Everything.
time, planning and taking into consideration the hours of wastage on the road. So one, you are going to school, you know, you need 2 hours in and out. You have to factor it in. That's part of the planning. And then even when you get to school, you also have to factor it in that your teacher may be late. And so what do you do whilst your teacher is not there? As a young person, you probably will have to think about how to get some of your work done, maybe have books in your bags. So for
And
example,
the bus you are
yes,
reading.
you read. So we encourage our kids to take extra story books to read.
Okay.
Or sometimes they may not even have the opportunity to do their homework, because by the time they get home, it's very late. And we have to wake them up again very early in the morning. So they barely have time to do their homework. So they may end up doing some of their homework in the car, or when they get to school very early, they can sit and do their homework. So it's a lot of psychological training, a lot of discipline. You know, you need a lot of discipline to plan, to be able to achieve anything.
Okay.
If you are an events organizer, for example, and you are planning an activity, you know, sometimes people say this is the advertised time and this is the starting time. So they will have an event and they will say arrival is 9 o'clock, starting is 10 o'clock. That's 1 hour that you are wasting. But someone will come at 9. Someone will come at 9, because there are a few people who are very disciplined. When you give them 9, they will come at 9.
Yeah.
But they end up being punished. And we always say that in Ghana, people who are disciplined rather get punished for doing the right thing. Because you will get there early and you have to sit for hours waiting. So I think that one of the things that will help us in, you know, getting better is good planning.
Okay.
And also, you know, a psychological turnaround. You know, we need to understand the psychology of time and you know, get it programmed in us that we want to change our attitude. It's a behavioral thing, it's a psychological thing. You know, there will be a lot of obstacles, because like Nana said, sometimes even when you are going for events and you are early, people will tell you, why are you coming early? In fact, the programs that people don't want to go early at all is when there is food and drinks.
Yeah.
Because if you are attending a party, we are trained
To
not
go
to
late.
attend parties early, because everybody will say you
came
know,
to-
you
for
came
the
for
food.
Yes.
you came for the food. So when people are attending parties, they rarely will attend early. So if you are an events organizer and you have a dinner or something and you say 6, you probably have to think about, will people come at 6? So
Well, it
it's
really starts at 6 too.
yes. I think it's a psychological thing. Once we all decide that this is what we want to do, I'm sure we can get better. And if, like you said, you have an event and you go early, it got to a time when we started this timekeeping activities. I just decided that if I attend an event, I'll sit for 10-15 minutes. Beyond a certain time, I'll leave.
Wow.
Because if we all start doing that, people will be on time.
Yeah.
So, we need a change of mind, change of attitude, and we have to plan better.
And I think that, like the point you mentioned about the big men, if they are also able, I think it starts from them. If I go for an event 1, 2, and the special guests come early, the next event I also want to
go.
Yes,
Yes.
I would also want to
but
go
you
early.
see, it's as the word has already been mentioned, plan or planning. It's all part of, even in my own small way, sometimes I find that I have accepted to do certain things, without thinking about
We have
it.
time for
Yeah,
it.
would I be able to? And when it comes to pressure, oh Nana, we want you to come and speak at this event, or we want you to do this, and you're anxious to do it because you think,
You
if
want
they
to
think
help.
you want to help, and if they think I'll be useful, and especially when it's an area of, say, media or something you've done all your life, but before you realize, you have other responsibilities. And so in my traditional area, my local area too, there may be something, and then you forget some of it. And so among the big people that we accuse, and we are right to accuse because they do come late, sometimes it's not their fault. But it's also because those who keep their time, who keep their diary, are not doing their work conscientiously. I recall an event at the National Theatre when President Mahama was vice president, and it was a prize giving, something, an award thing, and I was to be the one to call to hand over the award to the best woman writer or something like this. And they said 5:30. I was there at 5:30. I was there before the police band
Wow.
that played at the event came. And long story short, the vice president then, later President Mahama, came around 8. And it turned out he had other things to do, and those who invited him had not actually been very specific with the time and all that.
So they still
So-
wanted him to come. So they had
Exactly,
to
but he made an effort to come, but really they didn't manage the invitation and things well. And so in the end he was very apologetic, but really you know that he wanted to do it. But that meant people had to wait for nearly 3 hours. You understand? So it is all in the planning. But having said that, I think at the personal level, as Mama G said, I think we must begin to stigmatize lateness.
Okay.
We must begin to see lateness as the same way as if you went with your lipstick here instead of on your lips. You understand?
Yeah.
If you went, with my shirt half
Then
tucked
upside
in
down.
or then upside down, we
Then
we
that's
must
the odd.
we must see the latecomers as odd behavior. But rather, we are seeing people who come early
As odd.
as odd. So one thing that some companies do when they, or some event organizers, who give early bird
Yeah.
prizes and awards,
I think MTN did that one time, and I think I missed it. I think it was 2018 or so at Radach. I think it was 19 before COVID. There was this event, I've forgotten, like all partners come together. It wasn't the media forum. And I think the first 50 or is it 15 people, they had new Samsung smartphones. And I was like, oh my goodness, if I had come early. And I think that the next MTN event was the media forum. I was there very early.
Anytime you hear such event,
Yes.
let me know. I also go very early.
But I was lucky that day I won something. I think we all wrote our names,
Yeah.
something. Then they picked
Yeah.
mine. I won a
Yeah.
tablet. But beyond
Yeah.
that, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have won anything.
That's good.
if
So
I
you
didn't
see,
go
one of the
early.
things that I think TLC, we must stimulate is for event organizers, companies and everything, even if it's just to mention the names and
Those
praise
who
them.
came early.
Yeah.
And say the first 10 people who arrived were these people. Let's give them, an applause. Let's recognize
Yeah.
And then gradually, because let's not be under any illusion, this is not something that is going to go away within a year or two.
Yeah.
But if we are diligent, and one of the things that TLC we are planning to do is to have a Ghana timekeeping week.
Okay.
Yes, in the coming year, we want to set out a week within the year when we want to celebrate timekeeping.
Yeah.
It's an idea we are now discussing.
Great.
And we want at that time for media, for everybody to focus on timekeeping. And if we're able to do that, you know, and 1 year, 2 years, and meanwhile our activities are going on, then we will reach a critical mass where time would automatically become a respected notion. As at now, for most people, sadly, it is not. So the time when something is, even when it is, and I'm included, there are times when it is later that I will, hey, what time is that event, you know, that you check again. Whereas elsewhere, that is the first thing. And as Mama G said, it's also become a habit that people hear the time, but they think that is when I set off, not when I'm supposed to be there. So there's a lot of work to be done.
And I think there are times that we, like most of the speakers, they will ask you, what time exactly am I speaking? So they want to get there like 5 minutes before they speak. And some too will just want to speak and just want to go. Or they'll just want to come at that time. But I think that sometimes with events, we are able to come early and even speak later and leave. That would help. We are still learning so much here on the Reflection Show with me, Martha, and Nabila. So I believe that after this episode, you should make sure that church or school or any event that you've been invited for. I remember I went to a place, I was sending a letter to one education institution to follow up for an event, and they asked me to come the next day at 9 a.m. I was there at 8:56 or so, and I entered the man's office. Then he just said, but I said come at 9. It's not 9. It's not 9 yet. That he just came to work and he has not settled yet. So I think that sometimes people who come early, like he said, they are being punished or they are being seen as odd.
Yeah, he didn't expect you to be on time because he wasn't, you know.
Yeah, I'll be. So let's go for a break. We'll be right back.
Books by Pastor A.L. Fant. They are inspired by the Holy Spirit, simple to comprehend, relevant in application, and so lovely to read. Grab copies like Dynamics of Kingdom Influence, Dynamics of Ministry, Marcus King for Church Workers, Money Matters, and she calls herself a woman. This marriage must work. No more curses. Loaded mouth. Secrets of kingdom dominion. The exploits of service. Things fall apart. Church without bleeding pulpit. Singles mingle, and many more.
Welcome back to the Reflection Show with me, Martha and Nabila. Personally, I'm learning so much, and I'm just thinking about how I can also inculcate that into our activities at the Martha Inspires Foundation level. Maybe when I have a mentorship session, I'll go with some books or biscuits or something, and those who come early, they can get some prizes. So if you're a teacher or you are a Sunday school teacher or a leader, you are doing an event, just like we've said, you can put in some prizes that would inspire them and make them to come early. And as children, we like a lot of prizes, so you can imagine how many of them would want to come. There can even be a time where you don't have physical prizes for them, but the acknowledgement alone is really going to make them feel worthy among their colleagues. So
Good.
that is our assignment. The reflection show, you have to reflect on every episode and make sure that you actually practice it so well. So now, TLC, what are the activities that you have been doing and how has the impact been? I want to start from myself. So I've been following some of the sessions, and I think that I've heard Manasseh Azure speak. He spoke about social media, how we can save time from social media, scheduling your time and know that, okay, in the morning I'm only on social media for 1 hour and I come back in the afternoon, I come back in the evening. And I think I asked this question, Madam Comfort Okran answered, and I was asking about event organizers, and she gave me a very great answer about telling your speakers the exact time it starts and telling them that whether they are in or not. Like sometimes I think it's we not being so confident. People feel they are speakers, so you don't want to say anything to make them feel you are rude. And I think this year we did that because our chairperson was a bit late, but the program started. And I think when he came, he was telling me that he didn't know because he felt it was the Ghana time. And the first speaker already started. Mr. Joe Jackson has started, and the fire even came and all that. So I think that personally, joining the sessions have helped, and it has really created a lot of impact because I heard people actually say that, you did well this year, your time was, and I felt good, Charlie, I feel good. So join the sessions and then you'll be able to add value. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
You'll be able to add value to your event.
Precisely.
And people are really going to applaud you for that. So I believe next year, those who came late will come very early next year. So what are the activities?
So, like you rightly said, what transformational leadership concepts, what we are doing is starting with discussions. It's actually a campaign. It's something that is supposed to be a crusade, a national crusade. But of course, at this stage, we don't have the resources to go national. And with the benefits of this digital world, we've started holding virtual discussions. So the third week of every month, we meet together and we bring on board different speakers and we talk about different aspects of time. So we call it the Time Dialogue Series.
Okay.
And so it's Sunday, 4 p.m. And the next one is coming on this Sunday at 4 p.m. And what we are talking about is why is the Ghanaian always late? We are hoping to bring a development person, a psychologist, and a journalist to come and discuss it. Yes, but the Time the Time Dialogue Series is, like I said, a series of conversations. The first time we asked the question, how does time impact national development? And that is where we had Nana Kwesi Jana Pentin and Comfort Okran coming in to talk about how, time and planning is very important for national development. Then we had the Time Wasted series, which is, I know, one of your favorites. What are the things that waste our time? And again, we had Irama Benin, who is with the Central Leadership Program, and also Ibrahim Asante, who is with CSIR. He's, I think, the Deputy Managing Director of one of their organizations, also coming to talk about how we can manage time wastage. Because if you are able to overcome the wastage of time, you can save some time and gain time to do other things. Then the next series we had was to look at the different generations, the young and the old. How do they treat time? So we had a young person from from secondary school. We had someone who had finished national service, someone who was working. We had someone who was around 40, 50, a chartered accountant. And we had a professor of surgery, Dr. Who is Professor Ladewo Sonu. Okay. Who also graced us with his presence. And it was a very beautiful discussion with 5 different generations of people, know, the 18s, the 20, 30, 50, and then we had the plus 70-year-old. So that's what we do. We are holding discussions and we are receiving a lot of commendations from people. When I go to church, when I go to work, wherever I go, people look at me. And even now, the fact that we are doing this doesn't mean we are perfect. Yes. We are all struggling with time.
Exactly.
And now in my house, anytime we have an event, I will be sharp my husband, because my husband is the co-convener. We started, the project together. and Mr. Pinton graciously helped us with a lot of ideas and contacts and all that. So wherever we are going now, my husband is a chief, so we'll always be there. And I tell him, you have to be a chief with a difference, because like Nana said, you know, our chiefs are noted to be late comers.
Yeah.
Everybody has to sit before they come. There's a saying that if a chief is going to a program, his elders have to go and spy and check on the cloth
the
they are
venue.
wearing,
Yeah, okay.
and the venue, to be sure the place is filled up. And if the place is filled up, they will say, Nana Chen, don't come. And sometimes they will look at the cloth and they will say, no, this one, someone is wearing your
it.
cloth, so they will quickly change it. And it's well, that's what people say, that's the reason why chiefs always come late, because they don't want to.
You don't want to dress more than the chief.
You can't dress more than the chief. So I mean, I don't know whether it's true, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, all of us are struggling, but we are trying to change. And also because we are leading this crusade, we are making sure that everybody who is associated with us, we are getting the people to change. So it's work in progress, but it will work. We see that we are making some progress, and I'm sure that in the next few years, the Ghana time will become a Greenwich Mean time.
Nana?
You know, Mama G mentioned Professor Ladewo Sodu, who was one of our speakers. He did something last year. He delivered the Danko Memorial Lectures at the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. It's over 3 days. Each day, he did it exactly 45 minutes.
Wow.
Nobody has managed that as far as...
Not 1 minute more.
Not 1 minute more. And yet it was so interesting. He had a lot of, you know, showing graphics and all that and photos within 45 minutes. From the minute he greeted to the minute he would say thank you, exactly 45 minutes, over 3 days. And so the first day, people were late because they expected the usual, they would come and then he would speak up. So second day and third day, we were all there early because we wanted to enjoy. And for me, that was such a significant achievement and such a leadership quality he demonstrated. And we should, you know, show up people like that. We should hold them up as mentors. For me, that day, what I learned from him is that, you know, it is doable. We have to want to do it because it relaxes people. You don't have to come and stress out, you know, and so by the way he managed his time, worked for everybody. I would say that going forward, we don't have the resources to go big at the moment, but it's a national thing. And one thing is, we're talking about the possibility of launching a Ghana Timekeeping Week next year, and also the idea of going to schools and, you know, speaking, because if we can get this adopted as an attitude in children, or by children in an early age, that really will be the way to go. Some older people probably are too late to correct, I don't know, but definitely going into the future, we need to do something. So we need more people. Martha, you started, you know, we need more crusaders to join so that everywhere we are, Sunday school, mosque, churches, schools, you know, within youth clubs, this will be one of the things. So we're going to develop, you know, a time code of maybe 5 things, things that people can memorize very easily and remember. So that once, you know, it's like being a young pioneer or a Boy Scout or Girl Guide or something. There are some easy sayings that, you know, like Boy Scouts, the thing is be prepared. So when we say Boy Scout, we say be prepared. So timekeeping, be on time, something that young people will always remember as a cardinal principle in their behavior, and that would in the end help all of us.
You mentioned children, and I realize that sometimes parents actually make their children get late. Maybe I'm dressed up, I'm waiting for my father or my mother to take me to school, my father and my mother. So how do they, you know, Africans, you can't just say, Mommy, I'm late. It will be as if you are trying to.
No, you can't. If that is, if the child, let us, I'm just using it as an example. Let us say the child is able to say, Mommy, you know, our first code is always be on time. So if I don't go on time, I'll be violating, you know, I'll be late. And we do, you know, when children For example, you see, the thing is this. Imagine if we said we were going to share money.
We would all be there on time.
Nobody would be late.
No.
So the motivation in planning to be early is a critical factor. So if you're going to, I remember that when I was young, cinema was the main thing. That your parents Saturday would take you to a movie. I know people are going to say that about and all that, but this was true. This is what we used to do. And nobody wanted to be late because my father would use that for the whole week to be blackmailing you. If you don't do your work, if you don't do your homework, if you don't do the
You don't go to
assignment, you're not going to see the movies. So, and on that day, because the movie started around 6:30,
Everybody will finish their house
you have
work.
to be there. And so it is the motivation. If we know that by going early, like you're going to an event, and you lose half of it, people actually go to church even after the sermon. So why did they go? So I think that by highlighting the advantages of going early and ensuring that we benefit, from that kind of activity for the whole range, instead of thinking that, well, for me, I'm just going for the tail end or this or that. I think these are all parts of the strategies that we are going to have to deploy. But for me, the thing is, gathering the critical mass means getting so many people involved.
Okay.
It is good that in recent days, our online meetings, the Zoom we are using takes up to about 100 people.
Now we've expanded.
Expanded,
so
but
it
before
can
then-
take up to 500.
Before
Wow.
then, you see people queuing behind. People really, you see, one time, my connection dropped. I couldn't get back in because the moment the 100 people are reached,
Yeah, I think it has happened to me. I had to now go back to watch on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
So I had
It's
to even
happened
drop
to
my
me.
questions
Yeah.
also on
so
Facebook.
for me, luckily, I think somebody else's line dropped,
Dropped.
and I sneaked in, So it shows that we started with about 70 or 60 people.
Yeah,
Now,
the
very
first time.
quickly, it has expanded.
And now when it's almost 4, even if you are busy, you just want to log in and leave it
Yes.
so they
Yeah,
start
yeah.
talking.
And so this coming,
Before someone takes your spot.
this coming Sunday, I think, is it this coming Sunday or
2
the
weeks
one? Or
Sunday
it's 2
from
weeks
now. Yeah.
from this Sunday. We'll have one. And it's the question you have asked.
Why is it?
Why are we always late? And so we will urge everybody this link will be
Yeah, we'll
distributed.
share it on
We'll
our social media handles.
share it on your media, and also we hope that one day you can even show the whole thing. We will have the whole session on your station,
yeah,
on your TV,
yeah, very hopeful.
and all that, so that it really achieves the status of a national crusade.
And I think that with this series, it shouldn't just be a one-time thing. If not, I think the more you listen to it, the more you are conscious of it.
Yeah.
By just like a one-time thing, you easily forget the content that you have received. And I'm looking at where we can. I think you mentioned about the schools, and I think that is one place we can really start from. Going into the schools, talking to them, and those who join online as well. I think that the information should not just remain to them. They should also be like ambassadors
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
educating everyone around them, setting examples for themselves, and making sure that this thing stops. Because sometimes it's very frustrating when you go to an event early and you have to wait sometimes over an hour before it starts. And when you want to leave there, like, wait more, wait more, and it
Yeah.
eats into your other activities. So in wrapping up, what more can we add up to this?
I think when you rightly said it's good to get the children to form the habit of being punctual. But I think if you get a leader, if
Okay.
you get the leaders to be very conscious, it makes it very faster for us to achieve
Yeah.
it. And so, for example, I remember that years ago when we launched the timekeeping series, I even mentioned it in my organization and told MTN, for example, because we have a lot of events
Yeah.
and properties, and we used to go and sit for hours because most of these events were not done by MTN.
Okay.
We were doing it with our partner events agencies and all that. And you know that in Ghana, these concerts, people will go and sit down for hours waiting. And I remember that from the time that I sent a mail and said, there's a timekeeping campaign that is being done and people are going to call out the latecomers, then the CEO just sent a mail to the events team and said, make sure that for every event that we do, we are always on time, because this is a reputation issue.
Yes.
If it's in the papers and
The
the media
MTN event
people
never-
were
yeah.
very committed. You know, now a lot of media people attend. They said, you know, once we decide to do name and shame, you can be sure that we will do it. When we go for events, we will add it to our reports that, oh, this company is number one, they started early, and the ones that are late, if the minister is very late, so we came to an understanding. And so for a long time, a lot of MTN events, we work to start on time.
Yeah.
You know, because most of our leaders are also very time conscious. For example, our current CEO at MTN, he doesn't want to be late. He thinks it's very disrespectful to people when they come and sit and you walk in late. He always wants to come before time, of course, to meet and greet people before the event starts. So I think that our leaders should take a cue and decide. I think that years ago, someone like Major Kwashiga was known as one of the key timekeepers, and I was told that every event he attended, because he is coming from the military, and I hear the military people are very, very disciplined when it comes to time.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the things that we would like to do. Again, to event organizers, you know, there are two things that event organizers do that I really want us to change.
Okay.
People leave the front seats for the, we
The
say
big men.
it's a VIP.
Yeah.
And the front seat, so we fill the back and leave the front seats. And we allow those sitting in front to come in late. So an event is starting at 6, and they will tell you that the VIP
Reserved,
seat is reserved till 8 p.m. So it's like you have 2 hours to be late. And if you watch, when you have events, VIPs come in late and they are just matched to their seats because their seats are reserved for them.
Reserved,
Now, if they all have to scramble for seats, I'm sure they will come early. Or if they know that, oh, after 15 minutes, if you are not here, your seat will be taken away, they will come early. So that's one of the things. The other thing I'm also appealing to event agencies to do is to stop using, you know, their premium artists as
Come
the last,
Yeah.
you know, performers.
Yeah.
Because you know, normally when people are starting events, they think, oh, people
The
haven't
small
come.
young, right?
So
the
let's use the
upcoming-
young amateurs, the, you know, those who are now starting, let them come and warm the place up, and then we queue so that those who come late rather are rewarded
With the main event.
with the main event. So I think that we should have a turnaround. From the beginning to the end, you should have a good experience. And I'm looking forward to a day where you go for an event and they say, oh, the artist, the main artist of the day was the first person to play, and if you come late, you miss the whole show.
Yeah. No.
Well, I think, thank you very much. It has been an interesting session. There's always more to say,
Yeah.
but this is a very, thank you, it's a very good beginning. I think we've set out what we are doing and what we hope to be doing in the future. There's a lot of detailing to be done by all of us as a country, but we must first raise the awareness that the saying that time is money is real, and that if we want to go ahead as a country and to cut our losses, then one of the major areas to look at is our time and timekeeping habits. So I think on that one, we can all agree that this is something we need to take seriously.
Yeah.
So thank you for this.
Thank you so much for coming. I have been speaking with Nana Kwesi Jan Apenting. He is a former chairman for the National Media Commission, and also the media and culture consultant, and also the consultant for TLC. And Madame Georgina Asare-Fiegbenu, she's an author, PR expert, convener for TLC, and the Nanayere at Adidome in the Volta region. So these are very powerful and influential people teaching us and asking us to go by time. And if they are doing this, it means that they have seen the effect of not going by time. And for us to really achieve what we really want to achieve, we need to go by time. And then I was just thinking about how the youth in schools, I think maybe in our next session we can look at how you can schedule your academics. I think that have always been the biggest problem. How you can schedule your time to study this subject, study that subject, so that at the end of the day you can pass your exams. But the first thing I think we've said is planning. When you plan that, okay, maybe I'm good in accounting, I'm not good in economics, you can balance the time and study more for this and study a bit less for that. You can have a balance for yourself. My name is Martha Anabila. We are still calling on partners and sponsors for the Reflection Show. Come on board, join the team, and let's reach out to as many young people as possible with youth empowerment content. We are on TV 2 times a week. We are also on YouTube with the name Martha Inspires, on Facebook Martha Inspires Foundation. So get in touch with us, and also our official number 05495785512. Give us an email on marthainspiresf@gmail.com for all your enquiries and any information that you want to find out. At the same time next week, my name is Martha Anabila. Do have a good night.
Books by Pastor A.L. Fant. They are inspired by the Holy Spirit, simple to comprehend, relevant in application, and so lovely to read. Grab copies like Dynamics of Kingdom Influence, Dynamics of Ministry, Mark is King for Church Workers, Money Matters, and she calls herself a woman. This marriage must work. No more curses. Loaded mouth. Secrets of Kingdom Dominion. The exploits of service. Things fall apart. Church without bleeding pulpit. Singles mingle, and many more.